Welcome to a survey of management theory and applications. Herein, we will begin with an overview of good and improper management techniques in more detail. We have gone over some of these techniques in the past, but in the following slides, we will go into them in deeper detail. To begin, we will try to define palliative management, which is most forms of management application today. Let's go over what palliative means, first of all. Does anyone know what that means or can think about what it means? So palliative has its origin in palliare, the Latin for cloak or to cloak. It essentially means to make a problem seem less serious, but not solving the problem or making it disappear. So essentially just mitigating the enormity of the problem, but not causing the problem to be solved or disappear altogether. It's an action that is intended to alleviate a problem without addressing the underlying cause, right? So palliative simply means serving to mitigate or alleviate, serving to cover or conceal. The reason why it's called to cloak is because it refers to pallbearers and the pall or the cloth spread over a coffin. Essentially, it means to mitigate or extenuate, or to pull a cloak over the problem, to cover the problem and conceal the problem, but not address the underlying cause. I hope that makes palliative management and palliative medicine and palliative care clearer. Palliative care, by the way, is used in medicine. And we will begin by looking at some examples of good and bad management in medicine. In pain management, we have palliative care, where pain is not exactly cured but managed with painkillers. The patient is anesthetized and basically numbed to the pain, as opposed to addressing the underlying issues. The idea is to cure pain, particularly chronic pain, as opposed to engaging in masking of the symptoms, or basically blocking the pain receptors, which we do right now. We've gone over another area of the medical industry which engages in palliative management, and this was mentioned in the other slides. This area of medicine that needs reform is the disability management area. Presently, we provide palliative care with the aid of plastic prosthetics and metal prosthetics, crutches, braille, and sign language, wheelchairs, and a culture of accessibility. The idea is to forego such palliative care and to engage in good management techniques by entirely healing and restoring limbs, eyesight, speech, hearing, the way the prophets like Elijah, Elisha, Jesus Christ and Moses and Muhammad engaged in restoring human beings to their entirety. They would make limbs regrow organically, they would entirely heal the eyesight and renew the very tissues of the eardrums. The next area is a social or human area, uh, which is in need of reform and successful management. It is the area that deals with race creation or race harm. Presently and in the past, people are often stigmatized and they're branded with hot brands and their skin darkened and their features softened and their hair darkened and curled as punishment. Historically, people were banished to hot zones where they would suffer mutations from UV radiation and become permanently tanned, thereby creating an entirely different race of peoples. The race of peoples which we know today as the non-white races, which are the Australoid races of Africa and some in other parts of the world. Then the melanochroid races, which are close to the equator, but equatorial belt, but inhabiting the tropical zone, and they're mostly the peoples of the Middle East and India. And then there are the Mongoloid races that occupy the Far East, and then there's of course the untainted Xanthochroid races of Northern Europe, who are largely uncompromised. The solution is to give up the idolatrous practices of darkening and stigmatizing and branding and race harming people, and to give people fairness and beauty, health, holiness, instead of the darkness of ashes. How this can be done is another topic, and hopefully something we can go over in more detail in different classes and different subject areas. Another area of society that may need reform is how we manage human freedom. In the past, people who refused to pay their debts were enslaved or imprisoned or worse. I believe there are instances of people who lost a war and were turned into gladiators. And basically, if they refused to fight, they would be enslaved. The idea is to emancipate slaves, abolish slavery, and to deliver people of their slave holdings and other human beings that they view as possessions, and to deliver people of such immoral reasoning and thought. Lastly, for this slide, an area that requires management is financial in nature. There are areas of finance which may need reform. Presently, we have a system which penalizes misbehavior with financial penalties and rewards compliance with financial gains. Ideally, we would like to deliver people of financial controls and give everyone financial freedom. This, of course, is not possible right now because we do not manage human population, and even if we were to deliver some people out of philanthropic or charitable intent, they end up reproducing and burdening society and adding to the burden and weight of justice. Then we have, I believe, the the legal arena, uh, we presently have too many punitive systems of reform and rehabilitation. We punish criminals and leave the victims largely unhealed and even dead. Restorative justice, on the other hand, is some good management technique which allows you to uh, not only heal but cure and even restore to life the life of the dead victims. It also means lovingly reforming the criminals and the accused, so the criminals voluntarily apply for and are admitted into rehabilitation, like they admit students to prestigious universities. But in order to make justice attractive and our centers of rehabilitation and reform as attractive as universities, we will need to make justice and our reform centers and our prisons rehabilitative and healing instead of punitive, retributive, and compensatory. And the next area that we want to deal with is pretty important. It has to do with population management. Presently, we have few controls over population growth and management. We have indirect levers uh, like financial constraints and controls, but obviously that is not working. With populations growing unchecked, mostly in developing or low-income economies, overcrowding and overpopulation causes the most suffering to the poorest folk, which ends up compromising the quality of life of even the wealthiest. And the solution is, of course, to manage the population and um, and to control human reproduction. Um, the solution is to manage the population in alignment, hopefully, with three criteria. Uh, the first of the three criteria are um, is there a need for an additional member who is about to join our human community? Is there really a need, say by the untimely passing of a present member, resulting in freeing up of land and resources for a new member? So the next criteria for population management is if need indeed has arisen, and if there is indeed a need, next we may ask if the additional member about to join our society meets criteria and standards of desirability of phenotype and genotype. The standards of desirability may be set by aesthetes or people learned in aesthetics, experts, and also by popular demand. Lastly, if there is a need and if the new members to be is deemed desirable and is approved by their phenotype and genotype, then we may ask if there are additional resources set aside for the life of the new member to be. We may ask, do we have enough land for life, air, water, enough clothing for life, enough transportation for life, enough nutrition for life of the member who is about to join us? All these commodities must meet the highest standards. For example, in the case of land, we may ask, is it fertile, verdant land with a native fountainhead, 100% snow cover, clear, drinkable surface water? And if so, then we may consider moving forward with bringing this new member of society amongst us. Next, we come to areas of reproductive health. Presently, we use children as instruments of civilizing and taming or domesticating both men and women. The Bible refers to the misfortunes afflicting Eve, the curse of childbirth. Um, Fortunately, mankind has been absolved of the curse of eating bread by the sweat of his brow. So it is high time to relieve womankind of the curse of childbirth through the womb or in utero birth. Since we have not overcome mortality and we do need to replenish our numbers, the solution is to use exogenesis or the use of external wombs to birth children in a controlled and manageable fashion. Next, as previously noted, one too many people have historically engaged in race harm, and as a result, we have ameliorative, palliative measures like affirmative action, diversity hiring, quota systems, and admissions. These are all commendable and supported. I personally, and every conscientious human being, every good person must support compensatory rewards for people who have been traditionally oppressed, like affirmative action and diversity hiring. These acts are commendable and supported, but they are mere compensation, right? What is required is for justice to be accomplished. What is required for justice to be accomplished is restoration. It is the healing in body and spirit of the stigmatized non-white, non-Nordic races. Recall that justice is both restoration and compensation, not merely compensation. And in our attempts at justice, be it economic justice, social justice, medical justice, legal justice, we must keep this in mind. Next, we take on aging. Presently, as of today, we take aging for granted. Professor Sinclair at Harvard Medical School recently published a paper saying that aging is a disease and it ought not to be normalized but treated humanely and with dignity instead of passing it as natural or inevitable. As a result of age-related diseases, people both young and old have to deal with a lot of ageism. We must first end the disease of aging, including symptoms like gray hair and wrinkles and other chronic diseases, which we pass off as normal for people of a certain age. We have to reintroduce the era where people remain 25 years of age. They may remain young for however long their loved ones will abide them, till it's time to meet their maker, at which time they may go to sleep. So presently, we suffer from symptoms of aging, not to name any, but we're all aware of them. But ideally, we would like people to remain young and youthful for as long as possible. And when it's time to depart, they may simply go to sleep, but they don't have to suffer through years of chronic pain and disease and walk around in this state of suffering. I think that is inhumane. In conclusion, we went over a variety of good and improper management techniques. I hope this gives you some idea as to how to improve the status quo. I really appreciate your time and patience.